friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori if you're new, and I am so happy you're here. Thank you for clicking on this video. I have been bullet journaling for 2 years this past July, and I wanted to share some of my essentials in terms of supplies for what I've been using. I've definitely done some trial and error, and so I wanted to share with you guys some of the basics that I absolutely swear by. I wanted to give you some explanations for what I use and then why I use it. So with that being said, please like this video if you're excited, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more, and let's get into it. Also, just to mention, I'm going to have all the supplies that I talk about in this video linked in the description box below if you are interested in any of them. The first and arguably most important supply that I have that I absolutely swear by is the type of journal that I use. So I like to use the Archer and Olive journals. I've used a couple different sizes by them, and so honestly, any journal that you get from Archer and Olive is going to be exquisite. Like, I just think that they're exceptional, and here's why. So I've used the bigger size, the B5, and I'm currently using their A5. I prefer to use the dot grid notebooks over a grid paper or a lined paper, just for what I use it for, and it helps me to be able to create my spreads in the way that I prefer. The Archer and Olive journals are definitely on the more expensive side of bullet journals that you could purchase. My journal was about $37, but in my opinion, I use it very frequently. I usually use one journal throughout the whole year, and it holds up very well. I don't have to worry about my journal falling apart or tearing or the spine becoming injured. They just hold up very, very well. And then also the thickness of the Archer and Olive paper is on the thicker side. I really like that because there are times when I watercolor in my journal. There's times when I am drawing with Tombow markers and I'm coloring things in, and I never have the paper bleed through or ghost onto a page behind it, which is really important to me, especially with watercolors. I mean, having the paper wrinkle was definitely a concern of mine, but I've kind of put my pages through the ringer at this point, and they've held up very, very well. The next supply that I will talk about that really goes along with a bullet journal, it's also from Archer and Olive. It's basically a bind up of extra notebook paper. So I get this notebook in the size of my journal, which again is, this year it's an A5. It's the dot grid paper, and I get it in the Neapolitan pack. So it comes with white dot grid paper, craft colored paper, and black paper. Use this extra notebook paper to insert different colored papers during different times when I want to use them. And so I will show you some examples, obviously, of what I'm talking about. It has been a lifesaver, honestly. Even the white colored papers, sometimes if I make a mistake or if I'm not loving how a page is coming out, I will actually just tape in a new page from this extra paper, and it has saved some of my spreads. So I will swear by this extra notebook paper. It has come in handy, and I highly recommend. I would be remiss if I didn't mention this next supply. It is Ticonderoga No. 2 pencils. You might be like, what on earth are you talking about? I swear by these pencils because before I put pen to paper in any of my bullet journal spreads, I sketch it out in pencil first, and Ticonderoga are the easiest pencils to erase because they have really soft graphite. I prefer using these pencils over a mechanical pencil because in a mechanical pencil, it's very sharp. When you typically write or draw with a mechanical pencil, it will leave an indentation in the paper, especially if you're using thicker paper in your bullet journal. It's going to leave that line or that impression after you erase the mark of the pencil, and I'm not about that life, okay? I want to sketch out my spread. I want to be able to erase, move things around, make mistakes before I actually put pen to paper and ink it in and draw it in, etc. So I find that the Ticonderoga pencils are a game changer in sketching things out, not leaving an impression on the page, and then the erasers that are on the Ticonderoga pencils are very adequate if you don't want to buy an extra eraser. But for me, where I'm sketching out my entire spread in pencil first, I do need to erase quite a bit, and so I like to use the Papermate Pink pearl separate eraser for when I need something to just full on erase an entire page underneath. That might be super specific, so I apologize if this is going into like so many details. Then when I'm finally ready to actually ink in my spread and draw and write things in, etc., I absolutely swear by the Pigma Micron pens. Now, mine I use in a really, really fine tip. I use the 01 size, which is a very, very fine tip of, it's like an ink marker essentially. I will show you what they look like and also what the tip looks like, and then what it looks like when it's on the page as well, because I use these in absolutely all of my spreads. The other reason why I really, really recommend the Pigma Micron 01 or any Pigma Micron pens is because they do not smudge at all, which is critical for me because I typically will, like I said, sketch out my bullet journal spread. Then I'll go back and I will ink it over in my Pigma Micron, and then I'm usually coloring in with either Tombows or Crayolas, etc. And these pens do not bleed. I will give you an example of when I made the critical mistake of using something else to write in my bullet journal and it smudged, and it drives me insane. I used the Pilot G2 pens, which I also really, really love. But when you're bullet journaling, I don't think they're the best to use unless you've already used your, Tombows and your Crayolas, you've kind of colored everything in, and then if you're writing on top of that, then you can use a Pilot G2. But if you're doing the inking in process first, use a Pigma Micron. Learn from my mistakes. The next supply that I'm going to talk about that I literally cannot live without is a really simple ruler. Honestly, having a ruler is always going to be really, really handy. If I could make one suggestion, having a clear ruler is pivotal, critical, game-changing, life-changing, if you will, because you're able to see really where you're placing the line. Again, a solid ruler is going to do the job that you need it to do as well, but for me, I really wanted to have a clear ruler, and I think that the one I'm using I found at Michael's. I will link it if I can find it below, but I will link a clear ruler. The next supply that I need to talk about, it is the Tombow Mono Permanent Adhesive. It's basically an adhesive glue tape, and you buy the full cartridge the first time, and then you can just buy refills for this product. Again, it doesn't have to be the Tombow brand. I think there's a lot of brands of this type of tape glue, if you will, but it works so well. You don't have to wait for anything to dry. It is just instantly in your journal, and it's essentially like double-sided tape. It just saves you so much time when you're journaling. You don't have to wait for glue to dry. You don't have to worry about your pages getting stuck together, all of those things. It dries very flat as well, so anything that you're gluing in is going to just be flat on the page. It's amazing. Love it so much. Now, there are times that I use watercolors in my bullet journal, so I will link the watercolor kit that I use down below. It was a really simple watercolor kit that I got from Michael's, but the majority of the time in all of my spreads, I'm using Tombow markers, and then occasionally I'm using just normal Crayola markers. We're not doing anything too fancy here. The Tombows are gonna be more expensive because they are brush pens. So you have one side that is the brush pen, and then the other side that is just more of a fine tip marker, if you will. It's not super fine, but compared to the brush tip, it is a more fine tip. So y'all, those are my absolute essentials. I'll talk through a couple of more fun products, but really everything that I just mentioned are absolute essentials if you're just getting into bullet journaling, or I know the time that I'm posting this video, it's August, so it's kind of back to school time. So if you're looking for fun supplies, like school supplies, I think this is a really great kind of starter kit to get started with bullet journaling, or just really aesthetic note-taking, to be honest. Like, what a vibe. The more fun products that I really like, I'll be honest, I've found a couple brands and I just stick to them. So if you've watched any of my bullet journal videos, I often mention Papergeekco. I live and die by their washi tape and their stickers. I love them so stinking much. They're so aesthetic, they're so cute. I just love their style of artwork, their products are so high quality. So the couple products that I'll mention that I bought from papergeekco are these paper clips, for lack of a better word. They're not like actual paper clips, but they're like clamps. And I like to use these because when you're working on a spread, it can just hold open your bullet journal so you don't have to worry about pages being annoying and getting in your way. I will show a couple spreads where I've used their stickers and a couple spreads where I've used their washi tapes. They are just so beautiful, and again, so high quality and so worth the money. That is really it in terms of supplies that I use. If you have any questions, if there's anything that I didn't mention that you would like to know more about, please leave it in the comments below. I love chatting with you guys, and I want to make sure that you guys have everything you need to start your bullet journal journey. So I really hope that this video was helpful. Again, if it was, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye, friends.